This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside the lovely and talented Royden Ogletree from what I'm assuming is the KC Marriott?
That would be, the Courtyard Marriott.
Courtyard Marriott.
Downtown.
Oh, okay. There you go. Downtown in lovely Kansas City. You've been there for 3 days now?
Yeah, I got here on Tuesday, and it is playing it by ear up until now.
Yeah, here's the thing. Covering a tournament is so much fun, but unless you've gotten the go-ahead from your bosses to stay there the whole time, regardless of what happens, there is this ominous, do I have to leave tomorrow morning? Like, do I have to get out? Like, when do I get out of here? Did you drive or fly?
Oh, I drove. So luckily we split it in half because I did tell my boss, shout out to Josh. I told my boss, I was like, I'm not driving 9 hours by myself. I'm not going to do it. So we split it up I spent the night at a lovely Fairfield Inn in Edmond, Oklahoma. Okay. And then drove the remaining 4 hours, which I'm glad I got to do because I was absolutely exhausted by the time that I pulled into Edmond, Oklahoma. I may make the drive back all 9 hours, depending on what happens the next couple of days. But the drive up, I was like, absolutely not. Because we used to split it in two. Like Darby and I one would go up to Oklahoma City and the other would drive the worst part of the drive, which quite frankly is past Oklahoma up into Kansas. Because if you don't know, there's not a lot to look at.
Here's the thing. There's no, like, if you got lost, out there and had to, you were turned around. If you tried to give somebody a landmark, you'd be like, I don't know what mile marker I was just at. I don't know what to tell you to look for. It's all just land. That's all that's there. It's like land.
It's like hour and 20 minutes to Topeka, basically. And then it's like, okay, well, I passed that casino. That's where I would have to tell quite frankly, there are casinos in places where I don't think there are people.
Yeah.
So that's where you would have to mark where your bearings were.
Yeah, and, I once watched a documentary about Jesse James, the most famous outlaw ever, It's
because you're a learned man.
Yeah, and he's from Kansas, as you know. I'm sure you saw the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Boy, did I.
Yeah. The world's slowest moving Western ever.
But hey, beautiful gowns.
Oh, it was a really good movie, but it's
like, do you want to watch Roger Deakins cook for 3.5 hours?
That's exactly what it was.
Be our guest.
It was one of those things, like, you ever cook a brisket with your friend? Yeah. And you just know that you're like, all right, we're going to be out here in the yard more or less all day. Yeah. That's what
I
it
hope
is.
You like day drinking.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that movie is. But I'd watched a documentary about it, and there are all these people that are convinced that he's got treasure buried all over Kansas and that, he knew where it was. But generally, just because he knew the bearings is he knew the land so well. But I, driving through, I'm like, well, no wonder they haven't found it.
It's so much.
I mean, it's all the same. There's nothing you can be like, hey, the third tree, but in the end of Shawshank Redemption, he told him to go to walk down the stone wall and find the one black stone. There's none of that. It's all the same wherever you go. And so, am I surprised a guy who died in the 1880s, didn't leave an exact treasure map and he could have just been like, yeah, well, I'll go out to this spot where I know exactly where it is and only me. But there are people who are convinced that Jesse James has got, money, gold, whatever he stole buried in parts across Kansas. And nothing, what are we going to, but, you can narrow it down to an area, but even with the best technology, even the computers are everything's the same.
You'd have to dig a strip mine out here to find it.
Yeah, exactly. Honest. And then at the end of it, where are you going to find $1,000 from?
Of old useless bills.
Yeah, they're just disintegrated. So yeah, it's crazy.
That being said, that being said, Kansas City really is like a
Kansas
haven
City's
out
the
here.
best. I love it.
It's really fun.
It's great. How much barbecue have you had yet?
I've had 0 barbecue, but you know what I have had? Your go-to staple, Constantino's, or how do you?
Constantino's, baby.
Yeah.
Right around the corner from you.
Yeah. It's funny because you go up here, and this is my problems or whatever. You have to pay to park your car at the hotel. Guess what? I'm not doing. I'm not taking the car out after that. Also,
well, there's a shuttle, right?
Yeah, there's a shuttle to and from the stadium.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty walkable downtown. So I'm walking to the grocery store to get my sub sandwich is what I'm doing. Maybe if I have time, I will check out. I did Joe's last time, so maybe I'll do like Jack Stack or something like that.
Jack Stack, there's one down close to you, so you're all right. Q39, I know you've been there too, so I would recommend. I highly recommend Jack Stack. It's glorious.
I
will try and hopefully you walk in on a beef rib day. Just saying.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's where you can generally feel like Fred Flintstone.
Yeah. Come home, my wife's like, "Why have you gained 15 pounds?" Well,
Paul told me to go to beef rib day. I mean, what? I'm supposed to say no to that? Okay, maybe you have, all this self-control, but I don't. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were a saint.
I'm in Kansas City on a work trip,
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Mother Teresa. Not all of us can resist beef rib day. Like, that's what I would do to start a fight if I were you.
Yeah, exactly. I love doing that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look who's, yeah. Oh, and you didn't have a Rice Krispie treat while I was gone.
Yeah. I did get done like inhaling like a sub sandwich from Constantino's, which is really, really good. And she was like, "I just finished my salad," and I was like, "Oh," I just had gotten so much food from that grocery store. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like, I wish there was one. I wish Constantino's traveled with me. Like when I just checked into a hotel in any random city, that they're like, "All right, we're gonna be over here. Yeah. Just don't worry about it." Like, it just
pop-up shop.
Star Trek its way into a vacant spot in, I was in Fort Worth this past weekend. Like, boom, there it is. All right, good deal. Now I know what I'm going to have for dinner on the last night. So, like all those things.
Right.
I took, when I was there last year, when we went to the game in Lawrence, I took Amanda and Rami and Bree over there, and they're like, "This place is," I was like, "Yes, it's amazing. It's beautiful." And I wish that I could, live here. I really do. Like, there are apartments right next to it, and like if you were like a real estate agent taking me around for apartments, like all you'd have to say is like Constantino's is right there, and I'd be like, "Well, I don't care. Like, whatever." It's a 1-bedroom, half bath. You have to shower in the kitchen sink for $11,000 a month. I'm like, yeah, but sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's the thing, and I know we're talking about a grocery store chain to start off this show, but here's the thing. It's like if Whole Foods wasn't so full of itself.
Yes. That's exactly what it is.
It's the grandeur of Whole Foods when you walk in there. It's like, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff in here, but then it's like not $1,000.
Yeah, and it's also not like, these are almonds from Tom Selleck's farm, so they're gonna be more. It's just like, hey, here's some delicious pasta or pizza or sandwiches, or hey, look, it's Lent, and we're run by Catholics, so we've got this great seafood there. Yeah, so no, it's a lovely place. It's a lovely
grocery store talk to start the podcast.
Look, I'm big into grocery stores. I mean, I love a good grocery store, someone that puts out effort. A Publix, a Kroger, a Constantino's, an H-E-B. I mean, an H-E-B, I really do have some gripes with them. I think they can do better. They're great, but I think they need to up their game a little bit. We lost your mic.
Me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, they could up their fresh food game. I will say that. Like,
there's not like order. Yeah, can I get a sandwich? Like, can you make me a fresh sandwich there? They do it at Publix and Kroger. Like, especially Publix is, again, I would, I'll die on the hill that Publix is the greatest because of the subs. But
yeah, the pub sub.
The pub sub's great. So you are. Oh wow. I just checked the score back again. I'm sorry I'm ripping you away from the arena. There's a rager going on right now, 75-75, BYU and Iowa State. as we sit here, Colorado, the story of the tournament so far, Royden. I think that ends today because Houston is the most ridiculously locked in team that you can imagine. They just don't have bad nights. Like they don't have bad nights, they don't have off nights. They just have different levels of good. Like, okay, tonight was good. Tonight was really good. Tonight was great. You know, like that's it. Like a good night for them is like, hey guys, we got to get back to at least really good. You know, great just doesn't come along, but really good is our standard. Good is not good enough. And bad, they don't even know it. They have no idea what it means. No idea what it means. And they play Colorado today. But what's the buzz been around the tournament about Houston, about, you know, teams like that? You know, Tech plays for the first time today against Baylor. Kansas had just a nail biter last night. So what's the buzz around the Big 12 tournament?
You know, it's funny because it's like you go to the stadium to cover your one game, and then you have the afterglow of whatever game came before it. But so if you're singular focused, like you kind of are for me covering Baylor, it's like the focus on that team, and then you follow the storylines there. Like I don't think people are very happy, or just tangentially from what I've seen online with the Tang's performance and K-State out of there, especially because, man, the Kansas and Iowa State folks, it's right here. They travel to this thing, so it's full of Kansas State fans. It might as well have been a home game basically for Kansas State. So I don't know if they were super happy with that performance last night, but Baylor, quite frankly, looked rested and took it to them last. And, you know, I think a lot of people are talking about just how many, and this is any tournament, but just how many games in a row that you have to play too in as many days. So you better try and get a top 4 seed in this thing. Otherwise it's like Baylor's going to have, regardless of if they win or not, like still an uphill battle tonight to continue advancing. They're going to have to play 4 games in 4 days. Scott Drew talked about that. I think like really this is sort of Houston's to lose. I wasn't at the stadium last night when Kansas quite frankly nearly choked that one away to UCF and almost wanted to lose that game. And I was going to ask you about it, like how is your wife feeling about all of this? But you know, it was I wish I was at the stadium for that, because there had to have been people sitting on their hands in that stadium, and then probably not a lot of good vibes going into, even though they're going to, you know, Arizona travels, but they're going to outpace Arizona in this stadium. What 3-1?
Yeah.
So I think people around the Kansas team, even though they're a lock to get into the tournament, are a little apprehensive about where their standing is. Weird things happen in this tournament every year. I mean, right now BYU is up against Iowa State, and Iowa State comes in and wrecks shop in this tournament almost every year, it feels like.
Yeah.
But the idea that maybe Kansas or Iowa State won't win this thing for the first time like ever. If you look back in the tournament, Kansas has basically won in 25 seasons of this tournament. Kansas has won 12 of them. Iowa State has won, I think, 6. So they basically won the vast majority of these tournaments. I think there's some Oklahoma sprinkled in there as well. But the fact that Iowa State or Kansas may not be able to pull away with this thing, I think is going to be the big talk of the town. And I'm just interested to see Houston play in this thing. It's not like they're never not ready to go, but what are they playing for? They're going to be a number 1 seed. Yeah. Like we're in the NCAA tournament. You know, maybe they just get to have the unique distinction of we just literally wreck shop across this entire conference. The worst game that I think I've seen them play was that one against Baylor last Saturday night late, and they still came away and just kind of ran away with the second half and locked down Baylor on defense. So I'll be interested to see if anybody can even stay with them.
By the way, so here's how it goes down for anybody who wants to know. Kansas, Iowa State. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Mizzou, Mizzou, Kansas, Iowa State, Kansas, Iowa State, Texas, Texas, Iowa State.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, there's not a lot of teams that have won this thing. So,
yeah. And I'm watching the broadcast right now. It's just like BYU. I saw a lot of BYU fans out and about today. Like they like to travel, but like Iowa State is in there deep.
So hold on, let me count this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the 25 titles are in another conference now.
Yeah.
So if you take out all of those, the only current Big 12 team other than Iowa State and Kansas that has won this thing is Oklahoma State twice.
Yeah, like I said, this thing doesn't have much parity, and Scott Drew has been sort of it's as bad as I see Scott Drew get when he has to talk about this tournament. Like he is so frustrated with having – and look, Iowa State, Kansas, and Kansas State fans are going to say cry me a river. But like because they play the Big 12 championship football game in Dallas. Yeah. So whatever. But like he is the most I'm trying to look for the word, but it's really the most frustrated he gets when he talks about this tournament, because he's like, it's just simply a home game for these top teams, really. And especially when Kansas is good, I think it's extra frustrating. And look, this is the first time that Kansas, quote unquote, hasn't been good in 20 years. So yeah, no, it like, and the thing is their bad is still good by most team standards. They had 21 wins on the season. Yeah.
They're just not elite like they have been. And it's shocking because they're preseason number 1, given what they brought in. But Rylan Griffin's been hot and cold. AJ Storr didn't do anything until last night, really. I mean, he was a big part of the game last night. And that was, like you said, people sitting on their hands in the arena. I can tell you there was one sitting on her hands on the couch at my house last night. Here's how it was. She didn't want it on the TV, and so I was just playing video games, and I was checking the score, and I kind of stopped for a couple minutes, and I was like, hey, and she goes, I don't want to talk to you right now. I was like, oh, this is not going well. And she was nervous about it because they've beaten them twice already. So beating them 3 times is just hard. And UCF, in particular, beating a team 3 times, especially a team that can benefit from this. Kansas is not like winning this might move them up a line, but nothing's changing. For Kansas, for Baylor, nothing's really changing about where they're going. Tech, it might move them up a line. Iowa State. I mean, really, I think the tournament for the teams in the Big 12 that are going to the dance doesn't really mean much this particular year.
Well,
especially starting today.
Yeah, Baylor needed to win last night. If they would have lost last night, then it gets a little hairy for them. And I think people start to make the case that maybe they can keep them out. And Scott Drew talked about that as much last night. And this is the most kind of like frustrated, quote unquote, that I've seen him be, where he talked about bubble watch and stuff last night, where he said, people start to worry about it. And then they went in there and, quite frankly, beat the brakes off of Kansas State. And it kind of was like, okay, well, this team is obviously good and just hasn't really played up to whatever potential that we set for them at the beginning of the season. So, but I will say for them, if they somehow go on a miracle run, like VJ Edgecombe loses his mind and goes off in 3 rounds of this tournament, they get to the championship game or heck, win the thing, then I think actually it would benefit them the most. BYU maybe would go up a little bit, but like all of a sudden you're looking at a 18-19 win Baylor team to a 21 win Baylor team. So I think they would stand to benefit from it the most. Would that bump them up to from an 8 seed to a 6 seed or something like that? I'm not sure. But I kind of feel like you're right. For the top teams, Texas Tech, Arizona, and Houston, I'm not quite sure what this does to move them up any.
Yeah, I mean, Houston to me should be a 1 seed. They may wind up being a 2 seed because there's just a lot at the top. But, I mean, Cooper Flagg not being for Duke, maybe not being available, I wonder what that –
Well, they're going to use – are they going to use the Jordan Travis thing on them, or are they going to keep them out of the tournament?
Yeah, I don't.
If he can't go, man, what are we talking about? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, they don't do that in basketball, but and he hurt his ankle. He walked off.
He was helped off, and they put him in a wheelchair, and then he walked back onto the court. I think. Yeah. I'm not quite sure. Not quite sure what happened with, but that Duke team is so obviously loaded. I was looking at draft stuff today, and it's something like they had 3 players. Well, obviously with Flag going first, but they had 3 players from that Duke team in the top 8 of their mock draft. So I think they'll be okay for the time being until they can get him back. But they also had another player go out with a shoulder injury. So I think they were something like, the ACC is weird because the ACC is really only going to have like 3 or 4 locks for the tournament. And somebody said the best way that you can describe the ACC this year is that Duke, the number 1 seed, who is clear and above everybody else, was a 22-point favorite against the 8 seed today in their conference tournament. That's a lot.
Yeah. So they, I don't think they're going to do that, but we'll see, I guess. I mean, I guess you could move somebody down the line if you think Cooper Flagg's going to be out long term.
They won't do it. There's no like historical precedent for them doing that.
No, and it's also Duke.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's Duke. Like it almost like if they tried, like somebody would some guy would come out from nowhere and be like, sir, I am here to represent the Duke Blue Devils and, of course, all the Blue Bloods in the tournament. Listen, we understand that there are years where you move them off the one line, but one injury for the Duke Blue Devils does not a tournament to make. So unless you'd like to hear from our aforementioned attorneys, I suggest you reconcile this terrible misstep, and I'm sure it was just an error on your part. Go back in your little room and talk to your people and come back out again when Houston's a 2 seed.
I said good day, sir.
Yeah. Oh, off with you. There you go. No. Yes.
The bevy of lawyers from Duke Law School will be in that.
I guess I shouldn't have made him British. I should have made him like Jason Isaacs on the White Lotus.
Well, I do say, sir.
Yeah. Listen, I'm Durham. Here in Durham, we don't tolerate malfeasance and recklessness.
Yeah, that's about accurate.
Yeah. Have you seen this season's White Lotus? Are you a White Lotus guy?
I did the first season of White Lotus. My wife and I did. We tried to start watching the second season, and I kind of just realized that I'm just not up for passive aggressive television.
Yeah, it's true. Look, so my wife does this thing. Let me get this off my chest. She does this thing where her friends will start talking about a series or a movie or something like the new Frasier. And then like she wants to watch the new one before the old one. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And we are watching, I watched the first season of The White Lotus. And then I said, hey, we should watch you would like it. Let's watch The White Lotus. And when the second season came out, we never got around to it. Then one of her friends said, oh, this third season of The White Lotus is great. You got to watch it. She's like, do I have to watch the first 2 seasons to get it? And she's like, no, not really, but there's a couple of recurring things that, but you can go back and watch. So then we skipped season 2. She's never seen season 1. And we're watching this third season. And I told her the night, I'm like, I'm doing this for you, but you have to understand that this is not how things are done. We watch things in the sequence of the plot as how they happen. We don't just pick up a book and start on chapter 9. We don't do that. It's not done. This isn't Star Wars where you can create an order that there's a timeline that flows through. That's unique. That's it.
I with that show, it's like specifically vibes though too. If you miss one season of kind of what they're going for, and he tries to the passive aggressive stuff continues throughout, and like I forget what it's called, but the microaggressions is sort of the theme of the entire show. And so if you miss one season of that, I don't think it's going to derail the entire thing, but you really got to pick up on like what they're doing if you have a good solid base. So if you skip a full season, you may be like, wait, why are all these people the worst? I don't know.
That's the other thing about it. there's like one or two characters that you're like, oh, I really hope that it works out for them. And they're the ones getting just dumped on the whole season. So you root for them, but mostly you're like, man, these people have problems. But Jason Isaacs, who is quite British, as you know, plays this guy from Durham. He's there with his family. And his North Carolina accent is on point. People have said, like, either people hate it or people are like, that's actually pretty accurate. And I think people who hate it don't know. They don't know. It's on, like, I've not spent a lot of time up there at all. Like, I've never been to Durham, but I know a lot of people from North Carolina. You know, I've met them. And my dad, when I was growing up, my dad's company region included North Carolina. So when we would have like these family meetings, we would, go and hang out with these people, and that's exactly what they sounded like. And I was like, how, like, maybe there's not an actor, and obviously maybe not one to Jason Isaacs' caliber that can do this, but like this guy who is British and very, like, he's like a distinguished Brit. His accent's very... I mean,
he's part of the Harry Potter cast. Like,
yeah, exactly. He's part of the Harry Potter, and he's just nailing it like he lived there his whole life. It's crazy. Like, the way he's his phone. Like, I can't... Yeah.
There's nothing worse than when people try to do a bad, like, Texas accent as well, too. So I would be probably remiss if I was just like, ugh. But
no, but it's good.
If you nail it, it's really cool to see. But it's always like British actors that end up doing the accents too.
Yeah, that are better. Yeah. I don't know. I guess maybe they have an ear for it more than Americans do. Yeah, but because they America, we hear British and we kind of all lump it together. And it's like, no, I mean, if you're from here, it's like, this is like America. Like, you're from Texas, it sounds like this. If you're from Georgia, it sounds like this. And the
only good is like Robert Downey Jr. and Sherlock Holmes, and that's just like the most. Like,
Yeah. Like anytime, it doesn't really go well the other way, Although I do there are a lot of British or Australian actors that you can hear like doing the American accent, and this is really the only way that they can say it.
The Californians,
listen, Jeremy. Like that kind of thing. Like, that's how they're like, all right, well, I've been cast and I'm handsome and I'm strong, so I'm going to do this.
You'll have a nar slip out sometimes, too.
Yeah, nar. Nar. Royden, when we come back, I'm curious of your opinion on the Texans offseason so far, which is, okay, I would call it as that's a net positive right now. Like, it looks like I like the things they're doing, and I like that they're trying to reset. It's just probably hard to be patient when you're like, all right, the one thing you got to fix more than anything is the offensive line, and you traded the best one away, but I get why you did it, but So we'll go through all that next. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
Hundreds of things that can affect our sleep, but what's affecting yours? Sleep Doctor's home sleep test brings the precision of a sleep lab into the comfort of home to help you get answers and unlock a lifetime of great sleep. Start now at sleepdoctor.com/TV.
Escape into fitness with the Schwinn IC4 bike, providing a premium, heart-pumping indoor cycling experience that combines digital connectivity with superior Schwinn quality. The IC4's smooth, quiet ride features magnetic resistance with 100 micro-adjustable resistance levels, an intuitive resistance knob, a beautiful backlit LCD display, adjustable race-style seat, dual-link pedals with toe cages, and a pair of 3-pound dumbbells with easy-reach cradles. Place your phone or tablet on the media rack and keep them charged with the IC4's convenient USB charging station, extra-large dipped handlebars for premium grip, and dual water bottle holders for staying hydrated. The Schwinn IC4 comes with a slim, comfortable, Bluetooth-enabled heart rate armband that continuously monitors heart rate to help you stay within your target zone. But the best part about the IC4 is premium digital connectivity. Digitally immerse yourself in a world of virtual races, exotic locales, and stunning trails from around the globe. With connectivity to cycling and coaching apps like Peloton, Explore the World, and Zwift, with the Schwinn IC4 bike, you can ride with Peloton at a fraction of the price. Don't limit yourself to one digital experience. Pedal through dozens of scenic destinations, controlling your pace by speeding up or slowing down. Fitness was never meant to be put in a box, and neither were you. Escape the everyday with the Schwinn IC4 bike, your ticket to a life well lived.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Royden Ogletree, live from Kansas City. And Royden, your beloved Houston Texans, who love you as much as you love them.
I don't think that's true. I doubt they know I exist.
They've done some good things. I really like the Christian Kirk move. I like some of the moves they made on defense, shoring up the depth there. Trading Kenyon Green is that's the Eagles' next, you guys just suck at coaching. That's what's going to happen. Kenyon Green's going to go up there and he's going to live up to his first round potential. And then the Texans are going to be like, hey, they're going to call up hey, what'd you do? It's like, oh, no, nothing really. You guys just suck at what you do compared to us.
Which is actually a possibility too, by the way. Jeff Stoutland is awesome. I think he's gotten more publicity as an offensive line coach over the past, few months than any offensive line coach in the history of ever. But so good on them. And he's actually done a good job. He's turned Jordan Mailata who never played football, into a all-pro left tackle. Lane Johnson, who was he ended up being what was he he was a first-round pick, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or a second-round pick, but he'd only played offensive line for a few seasons in college before he became the best starting right tackle in the league, and it's all due to Jeff Stoutland. So as soon as that trade happened for CJ Gardner-Johnson, I was just like, well, they're just going to turn Kenyon Green into a Pro Bowler. That's just going to happen. And look, quite frankly, Kenyon Green was atrocious. They're putting up lowlights of him, or Texans Twitter is putting up lowlights of him on Twitter right now, and it's just him getting lost, turned around, not knowing to block the defensive tackle, screaming towards CJ Stroud. Yeah, he wasn't good, but they are going to turn him into a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I'm sure that they will. I mean, they do get some duds. Last year, they had a few guys. They brought in Devin White, who was really good, but and then he just didn't fit, and they wound up cutting him halfway through the season. They had some guys that missed, but when you get a Zach Bond and the way that they drafted and Saquon, everything. Mekhi Becton was a bust and a half, and they got the best year of his career out of him. Now they can just send him on. They're about to do it with Kenyon Green as well. They're just, yeah.
I have zero doubt. I mean, there's always something to be said. I don't like trading with the Eagles on principle, because I always kind of feel like they're getting the better of you with any trade that they're doing. I know a lot of people seem to think that this one is pretty even-sided. The Texans needed some safety help because all of their safeties are always hurt. God bless Jalen Petrie, but he's 175 pounds. And, he got hurt last year. Jimmy Ward's always been hurt. They had to replace a safety whom I blanking on that. I believe got a free agent contract with the Titans. Maybe I'm not quite sure who as BYU goes up 92 to 88 with 48 seconds remaining.
Yeah.
But it was Eric Murray who they had to replace, who was on and off again, like okay for the Texans. He had a pick 6 in the playoffs, but they needed to replace him. So getting CJ Gardner-Johnson who has 2 years left on his contract, regardless of what you think of him, and how animated he is on the field, he's still a great player, or a very good player at that. So he fills a position of need for them. I just think that like trading with the Eagles on principle is probably going to end up badly for you, regardless of what happens with the player that you got back.
Yeah,
because it's just going to highlight this, like, and it could be true. The Texans' offensive line, coaching, offensive coordinating, all of that was atrocious. Made 0 adjustments all year, and quite frankly, it may have been due to some of the players that they got couldn't play, but it was also just due to like their coaching was horrific. Never made any adjustments. I have all the faith in the world that they're going to do that with the Eagles. But you wanted to talk about some other stuff I mentioned too.
Yeah, no, I mean, but so their offensive line appears to be like they have their offensive line set if they don't do anything else. I would assume that at 23, that might be where they go. It's
100% where they're going to have to go. Like you can't trade all and then have because now they had backups, albeit, good or not, but they got rid of Shaq Mason, who they had traded for, and he still had money on his contract, and they just decided to cut. They were just like, no, thank you. And so, of course, they get rid of Tunsil. We can talk about that trade in a second, but they now have like 0 depth. I think they signed some journeyman offensive linemen in free agency, but they really need a guy that they hopefully can anchor that offensive line behind. And, I'm dubious of moving. I'm blanking on his name. I'm dubious of moving their right tackle to their left tackle position, because he's been hurt throughout his career as well too. They paid him a lot of money like he was a left tackle, but he's been good when he's played, but he's also just kind of sometimes he's just not on the field that often. But they just have to go, and it stinks because they now have draft capital to maybe move up if they wanted to, but this just isn't a good draft. It's just a lot of tackles who may be guards or guards in general, and it's tough drafting a guard in like the middle of the second round or middle of the first round. I mean, which they may trade up to, but I'm interested to see who they end up getting. What they have sort of stated is that they want a complete 180. They need people with like grit and determination and nastiness on that line, which they really haven't. And the offensive lineman that I'm thinking of is Titus Howard, moving from right tackle to left tackle.
Yeah. And he'll move back to right tackle, right? Or do you think he's moving?
They kind of hinted at they were going to move him to left tackle. I'll be interested to see how that goes. Like I said, what he's played, he's been pretty good. I think he was injured a little bit last season, and he's had some nagging injuries throughout his career. And he was a project coming out of college. I believe he went to like a D2 school or a low D1 school, and he was a project to begin with. He used to play quarterback, that kind of like Lane Johnson back in the day. But so he was a project to begin with, and he's turned into a decent offensive lineman, but he has to stay healthy. And now he's sort of the only one left from the Bill O'Brien era.
Yeah. What do you think about the addition of Christian Kirk?
I like it. It really spells to me that Tank Dell is probably not going to be back in any meaningful capacity this year. So you needed an opposite of Nico Collins. Means they had restructured Stephon Diggs' deal. We talked about that all that time, a long time ago, but they had restructured Stephon Diggs' deal to only make it a 1-year contract so he's playing for something, this, that, and the other. Well, then he tore his ACL, and they're probably not going to bring him back. So they needed more depth. All the guys that they've kind of drafted in the second, third, fourth rounds for them have, it's not quite his fault, but John Mechie got cancer. Not quite his fault. It's not his fault. John Mechie got cancer, so he missed almost like a full year of football after college. He was an elite wide receiver, it felt like, in college. And then coming out, he had leukemia, so he missed a full year. Then he came back and I believe he hurt his knee or something like that. So he's been behind the 8 ball. I still think he has talent. Xavier Hutchinson, who they had, who was awesome in college, has made a big catch in the playoffs, but he hasn't shown the ability to consistently win and make contested catches and do a bunch of things that you thought you were going to get out of him as a late round flyer out of Iowa State. Mm-hmm. I still like his upside, but they need somebody that is proven in the slot. They can get in and out of breaks, get open against zone coverage, where you have the, then you can go big to Nico Collins or hit him in the screen game, which they love to do. I'm interested to see what the new offensive coordinator draws up for him. But if Christian Kirk is healthy, he's been 1,000-yard receiver multiple times in his career. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the Brandon Cooks thing, where all of a sudden you're just like, Brandon Cooks, man, I don't know about that. But then you look and he's had like 8 or 9 1,000-yard seasons. Mm-hmm. I don't know about trading a pick for him because I feel like the Jags are going to cut him.
But it's a late pick, so who cares?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a 7th-round pick for who could be a number 2 receiver. He just has to stay healthy. Yeah. And I think if he stays healthy, he will be a pretty good safety blanket for C.J. Stroud, whose safety blanket was Tank Dell when he was there. So I'll be interested to see how they use him to sort of beat zone coverages if he's on the field.
Would you rather have the Texans offense or the Cowboys, or the Texans offseason or the Cowboys, which yesterday, phase 2, phase 1, re-sign your guys. Good. Osa Digizua, she's like all the Trent Sieg, key players you don't want to change, brought those guys back. That's all good and well. Okay, fine. That's good. Take it. Phase 2 of the offseason is first round busts.
What do you mean?
So if you were drafted in the first round, look, Solomon Thomas was the number 3 pick, right? 2-year deal. Peyton Turner was the 23rd pick in 2020. He's got a deal. They'll go trade for Ka'ir Elam, who's the same, Kenneth Murray, same that's picked in the 20s in their draft. So they picked up 4 former first rounders yesterday, or in the last couple days. But none of them have lived up to that at all.
Yeah.
At all. So there's a weird border that they're tapping on of look, if we're going to sign guys for depth, we might as well sign guys that we believe are talented, which I agree with. But there's also a hubris that it goes with the Cowboys of,
we know better than who.
We can get something out of this. And honestly, this has only worked one time for 12 games before. And it was Rolando McClain, 12 games. He got hurt. Then, the next season, he was rehabbing and, just became Rolando McClain again. But they're convinced that it works. They're convinced that it works, and it just never has.
I don't know. I think that the cap situation this year was weird because it was not only was it not a great talent-wise NFL draft, it was also a bad free agents class as well, too. So people who you wouldn't expect were getting $10 million deals, so on and so forth down the line. You just look up and down free agency, and it's kind of wasn't that guy terrible for his last team? And he gets a 2-year, $10 million contract or whatever it is because the cap went up. BYU wins, by the way, 96-92. But so Iowa State doesn't have a chance to continue the run of Iowa State Kansas wins in this tournament. But I don't know. I think all these GMs and even shadow GMs, Jerry Jones, or who is the GM, shadow GMs being Steven and whoever. I think there is something built into these GMs' minds where it's I remember scouting them for the NFL draft when I thought they were going to be good. There's a 5-star pedigree there, even going all the way back to looking at their max prep scores or whatever back in the day, and it's just I remember when he was good, he should be good for us. It's the fallacy of, well, it didn't work for them. but it's probably going to work for us, right? There is that hubris there. So I think taking the Flyers on potential talent is not a bad place to be in. I'm wary of, and quite frankly, look, when they go to good teams, it makes sense. When they go to bad teams, Dallas, you're kind of a little bit more hesitant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if some of these guys went to the Eagles or the Chiefs or whoever, you'd be like, yeah, it was probably a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the Cowboys. Like, I have zero faith that this is going to work out in any meaningful way. I'm hesitant because now the Texans, you asked the question is like, who would you rather have? Now the Texans have all this cap room on a bad free agent class. And like they've used it to sign, like I said, journeyman linemen. They traded away Laramie Tunsil, who I'm apprehensive about, but clearly they want to go in a different direction. Yeah. I will say it feels like the Texans have a better understanding of what they want to do than what the Cowboys do. Just to me. They're like, all right, hard reset. We know what we need to do. Texas or Cowboys are like, this player used to be good. Let's hope it works.
Yeah.
There's almost too much they can play in the margins. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, I just tell you I don't like it.
Oh, you don't like? Okay, that's.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I like, like I don't like them being over. Like there was nobody. The only person that they could have like gone and like spent for that would have maybe go like, would have probably been Devontae Adams. Like if you go get Devontae Adams, like I'm like, okay, that's doing something. He's maybe not a number one anymore, but you already have that. But like if you have Devontae Adams and CeeDee Lamb on the field at the same time, like there you go. And then you bring in a rookie second or third rounder, whatever it is, first rounder, then you've got something going there. But, I mean, other than that, like, I didn't expect them to do anything big, but like, I thought they might be a little bit more aggressive, and maybe they will be with trades. But like, maybe there's just not anything out there that can make this team that much better.
Probably not. I think that's where it is. And then I think that's for a lot of teams though, too, looking at this free agent class.
Yeah.
Is it remember the summer? I mean, it was a decade ago now, where the NBA's salary cap went up in just like an egregious way after the lockout or something like that, and then the Lakers were giving I can't even remember the center's name, but he was all of a sudden he got like $80 million for 5 years or something like that, and people all across the league, like the seventh man on the bench was getting a $45 million contract.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where we're at in lower scale stakes, but that's sort of where we're at with the NFL salary cap this year. And it's going to continue to go up. So we're going to see this even when we have bad salary cap. But the thing about the NFL is that like great players never really get to free agency in the NFL. It's very rare. Like you're not going to see Patrick Mahomes get to free agency. If he did, somebody would pay him $800 million.
Yeah.
But they just don't do that.
Yeah. So that's the thing. There's nothing, but it's I think it's more of the trades. You're like being aggressive and going, look, this guy, like he's in a situation where if we made an aggressive deal, this team is rebuilding. He could fit here. Let's go do it. I think that where I'm starting to, and I've come over the last week with the Cowboys is just keep I wish they would just keep their cap situation in order all the time so that when opportunities presented themselves, they could take them. That's really where it is, or not. Or like sometimes you do need to like double down and go get guys because you've got a chance to make a Super Bowl run. I don't think they're at that spot right now, and I think they know it. I think that they just don't want to say it out loud.
You think they would ever admit that they are not in a Super Bowl window?
No, they won't. They won't. Like they'd have to be really bad for 2 years, 3 years in a row. And that was like when Bill Parcells, like that when they did that when they were 5-11 3 years in a row under Campo. That's what brought about Bill Parcells because Jerry was backed into a corner. He was going to try to get this new stadium built and all these other things, and he can't sell them like Dave Campo's Cowboys on getting a new stadium built. But when you go into those meetings, you're like, hey, I hired Bill Parcells. Even though Bill Parcells never coached a game in the new stadium, it takes more than a week to get that done, right? So, he's done that. He's done that for for those little bits, but like ultimately, it's just not what he wants. And that's look. I think if they participated in free agency slightly more than they do, a little bit more aggressive, and they learned how to make trades, things would be fine. Nick Caserio actually knows how to do this pretty well,
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. But he's an actual general manager, and the Cowboys don't really have that.
Do you think they'll ever have that?
I mean, maybe one day, but I don't. I mean, I think that when Jerry, moves off this mortal coil 96 years from now, because listen, guys that have that much money, they're going to live forever. And I don't think it's going to be much different, unless there's some sort of succession type power grab among the three kids that changes.
Well, I mean, like the Bears are kind of dealing with this right now. I mean, they had a GM and stuff like that, but it's like the owner, the original owner and creator of the Bears, founder and owner of the Bears, his daughter just passed. I mean, she was and like they have no line of succession for that team. So now they're like fighting on how to split it up. I believe that's how it works. And by the way, the center that I was talking about, if you're wondering in the comments, it's Timofey Mozgov, who got paid like $80 million by the Lakers.
No, you know what? I remember that because Rico Gathers was playing for the Cowboys then. And I went up to do like a mini camp thing. And all these guys were like walking up to him going, "What are you doing here?" Like, you can't tell me like I can't remember. It was DeMarcus Lawrence went up to him and goes, "You can't tell me that you can't go rebound as much as Timothy Mozgov." Yeah. And he's like, and Rigo's like, "Man, no, I'm like 5 inches shorter than him." He's like, "Yeah, but you can run." Right. Like go do that.
Timofey Mozgov got paid it was after the cap went up on July 6, 2016. He signed a 4-year, $64 million deal. The contract on Wikipedia, the contract has been described as huge, dreadful, and indefensible.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote that in Wikipedia.
Yeah. I've been wondering, what do you, there's these things, and that's why I'm glad that the smart teams don't do that. But, but the smart teams also, like the Eagles, when Saquon Barkley's in the water, they go get him.
Right.
Somebody
was saying, I was listening to a podcast, I believe it was just the fantasy football show for The Ringer, and one of the guys is a Giants fan, and he was irate because they just gave Darius Slayton the same contract that the Eagles initially gave Saquon Barkley to come over there. It was like 3 years, $37 million or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
But they just gave it to Darius Slayton to come have like 600 yards for them every season.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. All right. Well, Royden, enjoy. I hope you do get some barbecue before you leave. But if you can pack up a sandwich from Constantino's and bring it down to me, it'll probably by the time I see it wouldn't be that good anymore.
No, I'll just put it on dry ice and ship it to you, right?
Yeah, yeah. And just, different things for Kansas City. Like throw some Boulevard wheat in there.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be good. Like just a keg of it. Can you put a keg of it? Because I can get it in bottles. I miss it. Like it's so good off the draft.
I probably have enough room though too. Is there laws against? Is it like Smokey and the Bandit? Is there laws against doing that now?
No, you're all right.
Yeah, it's not like Coors on the back of a car.
No. Look, I know that the guys are thirsty in Atlanta and there's beer in Texarkana, but it's not like that anymore. So,
quick story. I may be telling stories out of school, but I guess it's because they did sell it in Texas. But my grandfather used to go down to Austin all the time. Like his family used to live there, and it was so crazy. It's crazy hearing about a time when this was actually a thing. My dad said he remembers it fondly. Anytime he would go, he would fly because he owned a little Cessna plane to go to Austin for business or whatever. He would load back his Cessna plane with Coors banquet beer to bring back to East Texas because they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it past whatever line that was.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he would fly solo and then come back like American Made, the Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
It's instead of cocaine.
No, it was a good movie.
Coors.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think about when a time when that was happening. Not so long ago.
Yeah. The only problem I have with that movie is like Tom Cruise is playing a guy in his 30s.
He was also playing like a super, like, quite frankly, uggo. Like his Tom Cruise was like ripped and jacked, and then you go look at the picture of the guy and you're just like, what?
Yeah. That guy got better than he deserved. I'll tell you that in the casting. Yeah. And they didn't it's not like he got ugly to play him because the part was so compelling. He just showed up.
To fly planes and he showed up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, yeah, we'll do this. All right, great. And I'm sure the guy's like, no notes. None.
Well, I think he had long since passed. But
I'm sure his family like, no, please. I'd much rather him look like this.
No, you're fine. It's okay.
You're good. No. Yeah, no trauma at all. None whatsoever. All right, Royden, enjoy Kansas City. I will see you again Tuesday. You'll be back here, right, before you chase the Bears?
I will be back here. We'll see if I make the long 9-hour sojourn down there in one go, but I will be back next Tuesday. And also, if I can just quick plug, we're up here. We're one of the only news stations up here covering the tournament from Waco. So be sure and look for all the post-game reaction and stuff from us tonight at 10. So we will have all that.
Please do tune in to our good friends at KWTX. We have a wonderful partnership with them. So, but Royden, love you, buddy. Have a good time.
See ya.
All right, that's going to do it for the triple option. Today, we've got Max Olson from ESPN. Drake basketball coach Ben McCollum joins us. Evan Miyakawa of evanmiya.com will break down all the numbers as we head into the tournament next week. Craig Sook's off the radar. The FSU schedule today, which is terrifying. And Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, my top 5. That's going to do it. Adios, everybody.